Dr. Amanda Pierce wiped the sweat from her forehead as she carefully brushed dust away from the crystalline structure. The alien artifact glowed with a soft blue light in the dim interior of the research tent. She had been working on this dig site for 3 weeks now, and this was the most intact piece of Vorthic technology they had found yet. The planet Kepler 442b stretched endlessly around their small camp. Red sand dunes rolled toward the horizon under a pale orange sky. Too small. Suns hung low, casting long shadows across the dead world. Nothing lived here anymore. The Vorthic civilization had vanished over 10,000 years ago, leaving behind only ruins and mysteries. Amanda inserted her scanner into a port on the crystal. The device hummed as it downloaded the stored information. She held her breath. Data cores like this one often contained the final records of extinct species. Sometimes they held answers about why entire civilizations simply disappeared. Any luck with that thing? Captain Jake Murphy asked as he ducked into the tent. The tall man had to bend his head to avoid hitting the canvas ceiling. His uniform was covered in the same red dust that coated everything on this world. Still downloading, Amanda replied without looking up. The Vorthic used quantum storage methods. It takes time to decode their files safely. Jake nodded and sat down on a supply crate. He watched Amanda work with the patient expression of someone who had learned not to rush scientists. The captain had been running archaeological missions for 8 years now. He understood that the best discoveries took time. The scanner beeped. Amanda's eyes widened as she read the translation appearing on her screen. Her hands began to shake slightly. "What is it?" Jake asked, noticing her reaction. Amanda looked up at him with confusion in her eyes. "Jake, you need to call Lisa Wright away and get Kevin and Rachel down here too." "What did you find?" Amanda turned the scanner so he could see the screen. The translated text was short but clear. "Beware the third planet of Sol. They guard something worse than themselves." Jake frowned. "Sol? That's our solar system. Earth is the third planet." "That's not the strange part," Amanda said quietly. "Jake, we've found this exact same message before. 17 times. Within an hour, the entire senior staff of the research vessel Starlight had gathered in the tent. Lisa Park, their chief data analyst, sat cross-legged on the ground with her. Portable computer balanced on her lap. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic keyboard as she pulled up files from their database. Dr. Kevin Brooks, the team's linguist, examined the crystal himself, while Dr. Rachel Stone, their historian, reviewed the translated text. The tent felt crowded with 5 people inside, but nobody wanted to miss this discovery. "Here we go," Lisa announced. "I've cross-referenced this message with every archaeological find from the past 50 years. Amanda's right. We have found this exact warning 18 times now, including this one." Kevin looked up from the crystal. "The translation is perfect. The Vorthic language uses very specific grammatical structures. There's no mistake about what this says." Rachel scrolled through her historical records on her tablet. All 18 messages come from different extinct civilizations. The oldest is from the Ankari, who died out 47,000 years ago. The newest was the hegemony, extinct for only 300 years. Jake felt a chill run down his spine, despite the warm air in the tent. So multiple alien species, across thousands of years, all left the same warning about Earth? "Not just any warning," Amanda added. "They specifically mention that humans guard something worse than themselves." "What could be worse than a species that conquered half the galaxy?" Lisa's computer chimed. She looked at the new data with surprise. "This is interesting. I've been analyzing the locations where we found these messages. They're not random." She projected a holographic star map into the air above them. Glowing dots marked the locations of each discovery. A clear pattern emerged. All the messages had been found along routes that led toward Earth's solar system. They were all heading to Earth, Rachel whispered. Kevin set down the crystal carefully. But why? What were they looking for? Amanda studied the star map. Each dot represented a dead civilization. Each one had left the same warning before vanishing completely. Maybe they weren't looking for something. Maybe they were running from something. Jake stood up and walked to the tent opening. He looked out at the lifeless landscape of Kepler 442b. Somewhere out there were the ruins of Vortex cities. Billions of beings had once lived on this world. Now there was only silence and empty buildings slowly crumbling to dust. Captain, Lisa said, softly, I've found something else. Jake turned back to face the group. Lisa's expression was troubled. I've been analyzing the dating of these messages. The civilizations didn't just leave warnings and then die randomly. They all went extinct within a few years of creating these records. The tent fell silent. Amanda felt her stomach twist with unease. You're saying that shortly after each species learned about Earth, they disappeared? The pattern is consistent across all 18 cases, Lisa confirmed. Maximum survival time after leaving the warning was 7 years. Most lasted less than 3. Rachel looked up from her tablet with wide eyes. I've been reading the longer texts from some of these civilizations, the ones that had time to leave more detailed records. They describe Earth as a prison world. They call humans the guardians and mention something they call the sleeper. Kevin leaned forward. The sleeper? What's supposed to be sleeping? The records are fragmented, Rachel continued. But several sources mention that something powerful is trapped on Earth, something that must never be awakened. Jake felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. And humans are supposed to be guarding it? Amanda looked around at her colleagues. This changes everything we thought we knew about human history. If these records are accurate, Earth isn't just our home planet. It's some kind of containment facility. Lisa's computer chimed again. This time her face went pale as she read the incoming message. What now? Jake asked. Priority transmission from Earth Command, Lisa said in a quiet voice. We're being ordered to return to Earth immediately. The message just says, the Watchers have noticed. Come home. The 5 humans sat in stunned silence. Outside their tent, alien winds blew across a dead world where another civilization had once thrived. Somewhere in the ruins around them were more secrets about Earth and its true purpose in a galaxy. Amanda looked at the glowing crystal that had started it all. Such a small object to contain such a disturbing revelation. She wondered how many other civilizations had found similar warnings. How many had ignored them and paid the ultimate price. We need to investigate more sites before we go back, she said finally. Jake nodded grimly. Agreed, but we're going to have to be very careful about what questions we ask when we get home. The next morning brought no comfort to the crew of the Starlight. Amanda had barely slept, her mind racing with questions about the mysterious warnings. She found herself in the ship's main laboratory before dawn, staring at the collection of alien artifacts they had gathered over the years. Captain Jake Murphy entered the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Amanda and sat down beside her at the analysis table. Steam rose from their cups in the cool morning air of the ship. Couldn't sleep either, Jake asked. Amanda shook her head. I keep thinking about those civilizations. 18 different species, all warning about the same thing. What did they know that we don't? Before Jake could answer, Lisa Park hurried into the lab with her arms full of data tablets. Her usually neat hair was messy, and she looked like she had been awake all night. I've been running analysis programs on every piece of alien text we've ever collected, Lisa announced breathlessly. You're not going to believe what I found. She activated the lab's main display screen and uploaded her findings. Charts and graphs filled the air above them. Jake squinted at the complex data, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The warnings aren't random, Lisa continued. They follow a very specific pattern. Look at this timeline. The display showed a galactic map with dates marked at various points. Each date corresponded to when a civilization had left their warning about Earth. Every species that approached our solar system left these messages. But the closer they got to Earth, the more desperate their warnings became. Amanda stood up to get a better look at the data. Show me the differences. Lisa pulled up text samples from various civilizations. The earliest warnings were simple and factual. Avoid the third planet of Sol, dangerous guardians. But as the timeline progressed, the messages became longer and more frantic. The Zephyrians, who disappeared 8,000 years ago, left much more detailed records, Lisa explained. Their final transmissions describe Earth as a prison world where something ancient sleeps. Jake read the translated Zephyrian text aloud. The children of Terra stand watch over the great binding. They know not what they guard, but their ignorance is their strength. Should the sleeper wake, all worlds will burn. A chill ran through the laboratory. Amanda felt her hands tremble as she reached for another data tablet. What's this great binding they mention? That's where it gets really interesting, Lisa replied. She brought up another set of files. I found references to the Great Binding in 7 different alien languages. They all describe it as some kind of ritual or ceremony performed by early humans. Dr. Kevin Brooks entered the lab just as Lisa was explaining her discoveries. The linguist looked tired but excited. He had been working through the night on additional translations. Perfect timing, Kevin, Amanda called out. Lisa's found patterns in the alien warnings. Kevin joined them at the display. I've been working on the hegemony texts we recovered last month. They're the most recent civilization to go extinct, so their records are the most complete. He uploaded his translations to the main screen. The new text made everyone in the room go silent. The humans perform their binding rituals every few thousand rotations, Kevin read. They gather at specific sites across their world and channel energies they do not understand. Our scientists believe these ceremonies keep something contained beneath their planet's surface. Jake set down his coffee cup with shaking hands. Rituals? What kind of rituals? Kevin scrolled through more text. The hegemony observed humans for centuries before their extinction. They documented gatherings at places like large stone circles, pyramid structures, and isolated islands. The humans would perform synchronized activities during specific astronomical events. Amanda felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in her mind. Stone circles, pyramids. Kevin, are they describing places like Stonehenge? The Egyptian pyramids? That's exactly what I thought, Kevin confirmed. But according to the hegemony, these weren't religious ceremonies. They were containment procedures. Lisa pulled up another file on her computer. I've been analyzing energy readings from our long-range sensors. There are strange signatures coming from Earth's core that don't match any known technology. The display showed wave patterns and energy readings that looked completely alien. The signatures pulsed in regular intervals, like a massive heartbeat. Deep beneath Earth's surface. Something big is down there, Lisa continued. And whatever it is, it's been dormant for a very long time. Dr. Rachel Stone rushed into the laboratory, carrying an armload of historical documents. The ship's historian looked panicked, her usually calm demeanor completely shattered. I've been cross-referencing human historical records with the alien warnings, Rachel announced. We need to talk about human behavior patterns. She spread her documents across the analysis table. Ancient maps, archaeological reports, and historical timelines covered the surface. Every 2,000 years, humans have performed large-scale, coordinated activities at specific locations around Earth, Rachel explained. We've always assumed these were religious or cultural events, but the timing matches exactly with what the aliens describe as binding ceremonies. Jake looked at the historical timeline Rachel had created. You're saying that for thousands of years, humans have been unknowingly performing some kind of containment ritual? Not unknowingly, Rachel corrected. Look at this. She showed them ancient texts and symbols from various human cultures. Despite coming from different continents and time periods, they all contained similar warnings about keeping something asleep. Egyptian texts speak of keeping the devourer in eternal slumber. Norse mythology warns about preventing Ragnarok. Mayan calendars track cycles of binding and renewal. Every major human culture has stories about preventing some great catastrophe. Amanda stared at the evidence spread before them. So humans have always known something was trapped on Earth? The knowledge has been passed down through generations, Rachel confirmed. But over time, it became mythology and legend. Most people today think these are just stories. Kevin looked troubled as he read through more alien texts. According to the hegemony's final records, they tried to make contact with Earth about 500 years ago. They wanted to warn humans about what they were guarding. What happened? Jake asked. The humans refused all contact. They became extremely aggressive when the hegemony ships approached Earth. The aliens eventually retreated, but not before observing something that terrified them. Lisa looked up from her computer. What did they see? Kevin's voice was barely a whisper as he read the final hegemony transmission. The Guardians are not prisoners. They chose this burden willingly. They know exactly what sleeps beneath their world, and they will kill anyone who threatens to wake it. The laboratory fell completely silent. Outside the ship's windows, the red desert of Kepler 442b stretched endlessly under alien suns. Somewhere, in that wasteland were the ruins of another civilization they had learned too much about, Earth. Chief Engineer Sam Turner's voice suddenly crackled over the ship's communication system. Captain Murphy to the engine room immediately. We've got a problem. Jake activated his comm unit. What kind of problem, Sam? Sir, our long-range sensors are picking up massive energy fluctuations from the direction of Earth. Something's happening. In Sol System, Amanda felt her blood turn cold. The next binding ceremony. When is it supposed to happen? Rachel quickly consulted her historical charts. Her face went pale as she calculated the dates. According to the pattern, the next major ceremony should occur in approximately 3 months. Jake grabbed his comm unit. Sam, prepare the ship for immediate departure. We're going home. As alarms began sounding throughout the starlight, Amanda gathered the alien artifacts they had discovered. Whatever was happening on Earth, she had a feeling these ancient warnings were about to become much more than historical curiosities. The dead civilizations had tried to warn them. Now it was time to find out if humanity was truly ready for what they had been guarding all along. Captain Jake Murphy stood on the bridge of the starlight, staring at the star chart displayed on the main screen. Earth Command had ordered them to return home immediately, but Jake had made a decision that could end his career. Instead of heading straight back to Earth, they were taking a detour to Proxima Centauri b. Captain, are you sure about this? Lisa Park asked from her station. We're directly disobeying orders. Jake nodded grimly. The hegemony was the most recent civilization to go extinct. If we're going to understand what happened to them, we need to see their final resting place. Dr. Amanda Pierce entered the bridge, carrying her equipment bag. She had spent the past 2 days preparing for what might be their most important archaeological dig yet. The hegemony ruins are supposed to be in perfect condition. They only went extinct 300 years ago. That's what worries me, Dr. Kevin Brooks said as he joined them. What could destroy an entire galactic civilization in such a short time? The ship's navigation system chimed as they approached Proxima Centauri b. unlike the dead world of all, Kepler 442b. This planet still showed signs of recent habitation. Cities dotted the surface, their lights still glowing from automated systems that continued to function long after their creators had vanished. "Take us down to the capital city," Jake ordered, "but stay ready for immediate departure." As the starlight descended through the planet's atmosphere, the crew could see the hegemony civilization in all its former glory. Massive spires reached toward the sky, connected by bridges that sparkled like jewels. Parks and gardens were still maintained by robotic systems. It looked like the entire population had simply vanished overnight. "This is different from the other dead worlds," Dr. Rachel Stone observed. "Usually we find signs of war, disease, or natural disaster. Here, everything just stopped." They landed in a plaza near the Planetary Archive building. The structure was enormous, built from a material that shifted between blue and silver in the alien sunlight. According to their research, this building contained the complete historical records of the hegemony. Civilization. Amanda led the team through the empty streets toward the archive. Their footsteps echoed strangely in the silence. Automated systems still functioned around them, but there were no sounds of life anywhere. "The air is breathable," Kevin reported, checking his scanner. "But the silence is unsettling." They entered the archive building through doors that opened automatically at their approach. Inside, vast halls stretched in every direction, filled with crystalline storage devices that hummed with stored information. The hegemony kept detailed records of everything, Rachel explained as they walked deeper into the building. If anyone documented their encounter with Earth, it would be here. Lisa connected her portable computer to the archive's main system. The alien interface was complex, but the hegemony had been known for their logical approach to information storage. "I'm finding references to something called the Soul Observation Project," Lisa announced. "It looks like they were studying Earth for over 800 years. Amanda felt her heart race. 800 years? What were they learning? Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her interface as she downloaded the files. The early records describe Earth as an anomaly. They couldn't understand why such a primitive species had conquered so much space. Kevin looked over Lisa's shoulder at the translated text appearing on her screen. They were puzzled by human behavior. The hegemony expected Earth to be a peaceful world based on standard evolutionary patterns. What did they find instead? Jake asked. Lisa pulled up video records from hegemony observation posts. The screen showed images of Earth from space, with detailed scans of the planet's surface. They documented human activities at specific locations around the globe, Lisa continued. Places like Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid, Easter Island, and dozens of other sites. The video showed humans gathering at these locations during certain times of the year. The ceremonies looked simple from space, but the hegemony sensors detected massive energy fluctuations during each event. They measured the energy output from these gatherings, Rachel said, reading from another file. The power levels were off the charts. According to their calculations, humans were channeling more energy than some of their industrial planets. Amanda studied the energy readings. But humans don't have that kind of technology. How were they generating such power? Kevin found the answer in the hegemony's scientific reports. They concluded that humans weren't generating the energy. They were redirecting it. Something beneath Earth's surface was the actual source. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What did they think was down there? Lisa opened another file, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. The hegemony's final scientific report appeared on the screen, filled with calculations and dire warnings. They called it the Devourer, Lisa read aloud. An ancient entity imprisoned in Earth's core by a coalition of extinct civilizations. The humans weren't the planet's original inhabitants. They were volunteers who agreed to become eternal guardians. The team stood in stunned silence as the implications sank in. Humanity's entire history had been built around containing something that could destroy the galaxy. The hegemony's linguists deciphered ancient human languages that are now extinct. Kevin added, they found references to a great binding performed by early human civilizations. Our ancestors knew exactly what they were agreeing to guard. Rachel opened a historical analysis file. According to this, human aggression and territorial behavior weren't natural evolution. They were engineered traits designed to keep other species away from Earth. Amanda felt sick to her stomach. So every war, every conflict in human history was part of a containment strategy? Not just wars, Lisa corrected. The hegemony observed that human emotions generate specific types of energy. Fear, anger, determination, and especially hope all contribute to the binding process. Jake read over the scientific data with growing horror. You're saying that human suffering has been powering a prison for thousands of years? The hegemony concluded that the entire human experience was designed around containment, Kevin confirmed. Birth, death, love, loss, triumph, tragedy. All of it feeds energy into the binding system. Lisa found another file that made her hands shake as she read it. The hegemony detected that the devourer was beginning to stir. Their scientists calculated that it was slowly absorbing energy from the growing human population. What did they do about it? Amanda asked. The answer came in the form of video records from the hegemony's final mission to Earth. The screen showed their ships approaching the solar system, broadcasting messages of warning and friendship. They tried to make contact, Rachel said softly. They wanted to warn humanity about what was happening. The video showed human ships intercepting the hegemony fleet at the edge of the solar system. The human response was immediate and violent. Battle scenes filled the screen as human forces attacked without any attempt at communication. The humans didn't want to be rescued, Jake realized. They were protecting their prison. Lisa opened the final file in the hegemony archive. The last entry was brief but terrifying. The Guardians fight not to save themselves, but to save us all. We attempted to interrupt their containment ceremony at the Stone Circle site. The entity stirred. We felt its hunger across space itself. Evacuation of our worlds has begun, but we fear it is too late. The humans were right to keep us away. They guard something that should never be free. Kevin looked up from the screen with wide eyes. The hegemony tried to interrupt a binding ceremony? And it woke up whatever's sleeping under Earth, Amanda whispered. Chief Engineer Sam Turner's voice crackled over their comm units. Captain, we're detecting massive energy spikes from the direction of Earth. Whatever's happening there, it's getting stronger. Jake looked around at his team. The truth was more horrible than any of them had imagined. Humanity wasn't just guarding a prisoner. They were willing to sacrifice themselves and fight the entire galaxy to keep it contained. We need to get home, Jake said finally. Earth Command was right. The Watchers have noticed our investigation. As they prepared to leave the hegemony archive, Amanda took one last look at the crystalline storage devices. Somewhere in those records was the complete history of humanity's burden. The knowledge that could either save the galaxy or doom it forever. Captain, Lisa said quietly, according to the hegemony's calculations, the next binding ceremony is critical. If it fails, the devourer will have enough power to break free completely. Jake activated his comm unit. Sam, prepare for immediate departure. We're going home to face whatever's waiting for us. The starlight lifted off from the dead world, leaving behind the last testimony of a civilization that had learned too much about humanity's true purpose. Behind them, the lights of empty cities continued to shine, monuments to the price of forbidden knowledge. The journey back to Earth took 5 days, but it felt like an eternity to the crew of the Starlight. Every hour brought new reports of strange energy readings from their home system. By the time they reached the outer edge of human space, Captain Jake Murphy knew something was very wrong. All communication channels are dead, Lisa Park reported from her station. Earth isn't responding to any of our signals. Dr. Amanda Pierce stood beside the captain's chair, watching the view screen with growing concern. Look at the shipping lanes. Where are all the cargo vessels? Jake had noticed it too. The space around Earth was usually filled with hundreds of ships carrying goods between colonies. Now the star system looked almost empty. Only military vessels moved between the planets, following patrol patterns that seemed more like a blockade. Captain, incoming transmission from Luna Station. Communications. Officer Beth Collins announced. It's Admiral Patricia Wong, Priority Alpha Channel. Put her through, Jake ordered. Admiral Wong's face appeared on the main screen. The older woman looked tired and stressed. Her usually perfect uniform was wrinkled, and there were dark circles under her eyes. Captain Murphy, you're late, Admiral. Wong said without greeting. We expected you 3 days ago. We made a stop at Proxima Centauri B, Jake replied. Admiral, what's happening here? Why is Earth under communication blackout? Admiral Wong was quiet for a long moment. Behind her, Jake could see military personnel moving frantically through Luna Station's command center. Red alert lights flashed in the background. Captain, I need you to dock at Luna Station immediately. Bring your entire archaeological team. We need to talk privately. Admiral, with respect, we have information about the alien warnings we discovered. Information that might be important. Admiral Wong's expression grew even more serious. Captain Murphy, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. Most of humanity doesn't know the truth about our world. Jake felt his stomach drop. The truth about what? About why we're really here. 2 hours later, Jake and his team sat in a secure briefing room deep inside Luna Station. Admiral Wong had dismissed all other personnel, and the room was protected by security fields that prevented any recording or transmission. Before I begin, Admiral Wong said, I need each of you to understand that what you learn here can never be shared with anyone outside this room. The survival of our species depends on keeping this secret. Amanda leaned forward in her chair. Admiral, we already know about the Devourer. Admiral Wong looked surprised. How much do you know? Kevin Brooks activated a holographic display showing their research data. We know that Earth is a prison. We know that humans are guardians of something trapped in the planet's core. We know about the binding ceremonies. Admiral Wong stared at the data for several minutes. Finally, she looked up at the team with a mixture of relief and fear. Then you understand why Earth has been under total lockdown for the past month. What's been happening? Rachel Stone asked. Admiral Wong activated her own display. Satellite images of Earth filled the air above them. The planet looked normal from space, but the energy readings shown alongside the images were terrifying. The Devourer is waking up, Admiral Wong said simply. Our deep core sensors have been detecting increased activity for weeks. The entity is absorbing more energy from the human population than ever before. Lisa studied the energy readings. These numbers are incredible. How is the human population generating this much power? They're not generating it willingly, Admiral Wong replied. The Devourer has learned to feed on human emotions more efficiently. Fear, anxiety, anger, and despair all provided with nourishment. Jake felt sick. You're saying that the more people suffer, the stronger it gets? A modern world has created the perfect feeding ground, Admiral Wong continued. Global communication, news media, social networks. Billions of people can experience fear and despair simultaneously. The Devourer has never had access to so much emotional energy before. Amanda looked at the satellite images more carefully. What are those dark spots appearing on the continents? Admiral Wong zoomed in on the images. The dark spots were areas where reality itself seemed to be breaking down. Buildings flickered between existing and not existing. Landscapes shifted and changed without reason. The Devourer's influence is bleeding through the containment barriers, Admiral Wong explained. These reality distortions started appearing 2 weeks ago. They're growing larger every day. Rachel pointed to specific locations on the map. They're all near the ancient binding sites. Stonehenge, the Pyramid Complex, Easter Island. The containment system is failing, Admiral Wong confirmed. Our scientists estimate we have less than 6 weeks before complete containment breach. Systems specialist Greg Murphy, the captain's brother, had been quiet throughout the briefing. Now he spoke up, with a question that chilled everyone in the room. Admiral, what happens if the Devourer breaks free completely? Admiral Wong's answer was barely a whisper. Total galactic extinction. The entity feeds on life force itself. Every living world within 1,000 light years would be consumed within months. Jake looked around the room at his team. They had uncovered the truth about humanity's purpose, but the knowledge felt like a curse rather than a discovery. What about the binding ceremony? Amanda asked. Can we still perform it? Admiral Wong's expression grew even darker. That's the real problem. The ceremony requires specific conditions. Astronomical alignments, trained participants, and most importantly, willing cooperation from the human population. But people don't know the truth, Kevin pointed out. How can they cooperate if they're ignorant? That's always been the challenge, Admiral Wong replied. For thousands of years, select groups of humans have maintained the knowledge in secret. We call them the Wardens. She activated another display showing a world map marked with dozens of locations. Each mark represented a group of people who knew the truth about Earth's purpose. The Wardens have been preparing for the next binding ceremony for decades, but something has changed. The Devourer's awakening has affected their ability to perform the ritual. Lisa looked at the data streams flowing across the display. The energy patterns are different. The entity is actively fighting against the containment now. Previous binding ceremonies were performed while the Devourer was dormant, Admiral Wong explained. This time, we're trying to re-imprison something. That's already partially awake and aware of what we're doing. Amanda felt a chill run through her body. It knows we're trying to contain it. The Devourer has been learning from every human emotion it consumes. It understands our technology, our communication systems, even our intentions. It's been preparing for this moment just as we have. Greg looked at the reality distortion images with growing alarm. Admiral, those dark zones are spreading faster than your projections showed. Admiral Wong checked her data, and her face went pale. You're right. The rate of expansion has accelerated in the past 12 hours. Jake stood up from his chair. What can we do to help? Your archaeological knowledge might be crucial, Admiral Wong replied. The Wardens need to understand exactly how the original binding was performed. Your research into extinct civilizations could provide missing pieces of the puzzle. Amanda gathered her data tablets. We have complete records from 18 different alien species. All of them observed the binding ceremonies from space. That's more information than the Wardens have ever had access to, Admiral Wong said with the first hint of hope they had seen from her dot as the team prepared to leave the briefing room. Admiral Wong called out one final warning. Remember, most of humanity still doesn't know the truth. If word gets out about the Devourer before we're ready, the resulting panic could provide enough emotional energy to break the containment immediately. Jake nodded grimly. How do we fight? Something that feeds on human fear? Admiral Wong's answer followed them as they left the room. We do what humans have always done. We find a way to turn our greatest weakness into our greatest strength. As the Starlight prepared to depart Luna Station for Earth, The crew could see more military ships arriving every hour. Humanity was mobilizing for a battle that most of the species didn't even know was coming. Through the viewports, Earth looked peaceful and normal. But beneath its surface, something ancient and terrible was stirring. The fate of every living world in the galaxy now rested on humanity's ability to maintain a prison that was older than recorded history. The binding ceremony was only weeks away, and failure was not an option. 3 weeks later, Dr. Amanda Pierce stood on a hillside overlooking Stonehenge. The ancient stone circle looked the same as it had for thousands of years, but the air around it shimmered with an energy that made her skin crawl. Reality bent and twisted near the monument, creating patches where the sky looked purple instead of blue. "The distortions are getting worse," Dr. Kevin Brooks said as he joined her. His equipment detected energy levels that should have been impossible on Earth's surface. "Whatever's down there is getting stronger." Amanda nodded toward the stone circle, where dozens of people in white robes moved in careful patterns. These were the wardens, the secret guardians who had maintained the binding ceremony for generations. Their leader, Director Carl Mason, had been preparing for this moment his entire life. "How many sites are active today?" Amanda asked. Kevin checked his communication device. 47 locations around the world. The Great Pyramid, Easter Island, Machu Picchu, and dozens of others. All the ancient binding sites are participating simultaneously. Captain Jake Murphy approached them from the temporary command center that had been set up near the monument. His face was grim as he carried the latest reports from the other sites. "We've lost contact with the team in Egypt," Jake announced. The reality distortions around the Great Pyramid expanded suddenly an hour ago. Satellite images show the entire complex flickering in and out of existence. Amanda felt her heart sink. "What about the people there?" "We don't know. The area is completely cut off from outside communication." Dr. Rachel Stone hurried toward them from the research station. She had been monitoring global communication networks for signs of panic among the civilian population. Her expression told them the news wasn't good. "Social media is going crazy," Rachel reported. "People around the world are reporting strange dreams, unexplained fears, and a sense that something terrible is about to happen." Kevin looked at his energy readings with growing alarm. "The Devourer is affecting human psychology on a global scale. It's feeding on the fear of 7 billion people simultaneously." Director Carl Mason walked over to their group. The elderly man looked exhausted, but his eyes burned with determination. He had spent his life preparing for this day, and he wasn't going to let fear stop him now. "The ceremony must begin within the hour," Director Mason announced. "The astronomical alignment will be perfect, but we have a narrow window of opportunity." Amanda looked at the reality distortions growing around Stonehenge. "Director, are you sure the wardens can maintain the binding while the Devourer is actively fighting back?" Director Mason's answer was interrupted by a sound that made everyone freeze in terror. It was barely audible, more felt than heard, but it seemed to come from deep beneath their feet. A low rumbling that suggested something massive was moving far below the surface. "It knows we're here," Director Mason whispered. "The Devourer is aware of what we're trying to do." Lisa Park's voice crackled over their communication devices from the orbital command station. "Ground team, we're detecting massive energy spikes from Earth's core. Whatever you're planning to do, you need to do it now." The wardens at Stonehenge began moving faster, taking their positions around the stone circle. Director Mason pulled out an ancient book written in languages that predated recorded history. The binding ceremony was about to begin. "Everyone except essential personnel needs to move back," Director Mason ordered. "If something goes wrong, the psychic feedback could be deadly." Amanda and her team retreated to a safe distance, but they kept their monitoring equipment active. This might be the last chance to document how the binding ceremony actually worked out as the wardens began their ritual. The air around Stonehenge started to glow with an eerie light. The ancient stones hummed with power that seemed to come from Earth itself. Reality stabilized temporarily as the ceremony took effect, but something was different this time. Instead of the peaceful energy patterns that the alien records had described, violent fluctuations rippled through the binding field. The Devourer was fighting back with intelligence and purpose. "The entity is adapting to our containment methods," Kevin reported, watching his instruments with fascination and horror. "It's learning how to counter the binding energy." The rumbling from below grew louder. Trees near Stonehenge began to wither and die as the Devourer's influence spread upward through the earth. The sky above the monument turned dark, despite the afternoon sunlight. Director Mason's voice rose above the growing chaos as he led the wardens through the ancient chants. But halfway through the ceremony, something went terribly wrong. One of the wardens collapsed, screaming about visions of cosmic horror and endless hunger. "The psychological attacks are getting stronger," Rachel observed. "The Devourer is targeting the wardens directly." More wardens began to falter as the entity assaulted their minds with images of galactic destruction and hopelessness. The binding field started to weaken, and the reality distortions expanded rapidly outward from the stone circle. Amanda watched in horror as the ceremony began to fail. "Director Mason, can you complete the ritual without the full team?" Director Mason's response was cut off by an explosion of dark energy from the center of Stonehenge. The ancient stones cracked and shifted as something beneath them pushed upward. For the first time in thousands of years, the Devourer was breaking through the surface barriers. A voice that wasn't quite sound and wasn't quite thought filled the minds of everyone present. It spoke of endless hunger, of civilizations consumed, of the futility of resistance. The entity had been imprisoned for so long that its rage was beyond human comprehension. But instead of breaking and running, like every other species would have done, something unexpected happened. The humans got angry. "No," Director Mason said firmly, standing up despite the psychic assault. "You do not get to threaten our world." Amanda felt it too. The Devourer's attempts to inspire fear and despair were backfiring. Instead of cowering, the humans were becoming more determined to fight. Their anger at the threat to their planet was generating a different kind of energy. Kevin's instruments showed readings he had never seen before. The human emotional response is changing the energy patterns. The Devourer can't process this type of resistance. More humans arrived at Stonehenge. Military personnel, scientists, and ordinary civilians who had felt the call to protect their world. They didn't fully understand what was happening, but they knew Earth was in danger. And that was enough. The entity feeds on fear and despair, Amanda realized. But humans respond to cosmic horror with rage and defiance. The Devourer's psychic attacks grew more desperate as it encountered something it had never faced before. Every other species in the galaxy had broken under the weight of existential terror. But humans met incomprehensible evil with righteous fury. Director Mason and the surviving wardens resumed the binding ceremony, but now they had help. Hundreds of humans surrounded Stonehenge, their combined determination creating a barrier that the Devourer couldn't break through. The dark energy retreating back toward Earth's core, but everyone present knew this was only a temporary victory. The entity was fully awake now, and it would not give up easily. Jake activated his communication device to contact the orbital station. "Lisa, what's the status of the other binding sites?" Lisa's response filled them with hope and dread in equal measure. "Captain, you're not going to believe this. Every major population center on Earth is experiencing the same thing. Humans are gathering at ancient sites worldwide, and they're all performing variations of the binding ceremony. Amanda looked around at the crowd of determined humans surrounding. Stonehenge. The species memory is activating. Humanity remembers what it was created to do. Director Mason closed his ancient book and looked at the gathered crowd. The real ceremony is just beginning. The Devourer wanted to face a few secret guardians. Instead, it's about to face the entire human race. As night fell over England, similar scenes were playing out at ancient sites around the world. Humanity was awakening to its true purpose, and the final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. Dr. Amanda Pierce watched the sun rise over Stonehenge as thousands of humans maintained their vigil around the ancient stones. They had been standing guard for 3 days now, their combined will holding the Devourer in check. But everyone could feel the entity growing stronger with each passing hour. Captain Jake Murphy approached Amanda with reports from around the globe. His face showed exhaustion, but also something that looked like pride. Every continent is reporting the same thing. Millions of humans have gathered at the ancient sites. They don't know why they're there, but they refuse to leave. The genetic memory is fully active now, Dr. Kevin Brooks said as he monitored the energy readings from his equipment. Humanity is remembering its purpose on an instinctual level. Amanda looked at the crowd surrounding them. Farmers, teachers, soldiers, children, and elderly people all stood together in quiet determination. They came from different countries and spoke different languages, but they all felt the same call to protect their world. Director Carl Mason had not slept since the ceremony began. The elderly warden leader stood near the center stone, his hands pressed against the ancient rock as he channeled energy into the binding system. His face was pale, but his resolve never wavered. "Director, you need to rest," Amanda called to him. "You can't maintain this forever." Director Mason looked at her with eyes that held ancient wisdom. "I don't need to maintain it forever. Just long enough for humanity to make its choice." Before Amanda could ask what he meant, the ground beneath Stonehenge began to shake. The Devourer was making another attempt to break free, and this time its assault was stronger than ever before. Reality twisted around the stone circle as the entity pushed against its bonds. The sky turned black despite the morning sunlight, and stars became visible in broad daylight. But these weren't normal stars. They pulsed with malevolent intelligence, showing visions of worlds consumed by endless hunger. The psychic attack hit every human present at the same time. The Devourer flooded their minds with images of galactic extinction, of civilizations screaming as they were devoured, of the futility of resistance against cosmic horror. But something incredible happened. Instead of breaking under the assault, the humans got angrier. "No," said a farmer from Scotland, his voice carrying across the crowd. "You will not have our world." "We don't care how old you are," added a teacher from Japan. "We don't care how powerful you are. Earth is ours." Dr. Rachel Stone watched in amazement as the crowd's defiance created visible waves of energy that pushed back against the Devourer's influence. This is unprecedented. The entity can't process this type of response. Lisa Park's voice crackled over their communication devices from the orbital station. "Ground team, we're detecting something incredible. The Devourer's energy signature is changing. It's weakening." Amanda looked at her instruments and saw readings that should have been impossible. The entity is losing power. But how? Director Mason answered her question without taking his hands off the stone. The Devourer feeds on fear and despair, but humans respond to existential terror with stubborn rage. The entity was designed to consume cowering prey, not apex predators who fight back. The dark presence beneath their feet seemed to recoil as it encountered something it had never faced before. For millions of years, the Devourer had consumed civilizations that broke under the weight of cosmic horror. But humanity met incomprehensible evil with incomprehensible determination. Kevin's equipment detected a new phenomenon. The Devourer is trying to communicate. It's broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The entity's voice filled the minds of everyone at Stonehenge. But instead of the terrifying presence they expected, it sounded almost confused. "Why do you not flee?" the Devourer asked. "Every species before you ran when they understood what I am." Director Mason spoke for all of humanity when he answered, "Because this is our job. We volunteered for this duty thousands of years ago, and we're not quitting now." The Devourer's response revealed something surprising. "I can offer you knowledge of the universe's secrets, technologies beyond your imagination, freedom from this burden you carry." Amanda felt the temptation in the entity's offer. The knowledge of countless consumed civilizations was available for the taking. But she also felt something else. The absolute certainty that accepting would doom every living world in the galaxy. "We don't want your knowledge," Amanda said firmly. "We don't want your technology. We want you to stay exactly where you are." The crowd around Stonehenge echoed her sentiment. Thousands of voices spoke as one. "We choose our burden. We choose our duty. We choose to guard the galaxy." The Devourer's confusion was palpable. "You would sacrifice eternal comfort for the sake of species you have never met?" Jake Murphy stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of someone speaking for his entire species. "That's what humans do. We stand between the darkness and the light, even when nobody asks us to." The entity fell silent for a moment. When it spoke again, its voice held something that might have been respect. "I understand now why the Ancient Ones chose your species as guardians. You are the only people in the galaxy who would willingly carry this burden forever." Amanda felt the Devourer's presence withdrawing deeper into Earth's core. The entity wasn't giving up, but it was acknowledging that humanity would never break the way other species had. "The binding is stabilizing," Kevin reported with amazement. "The Devourer is actually helping to maintain its own prison." Director Mason finally stepped away from the center stone, his ancient duty complete. The entity has learned that escape is impossible as long as humanity exists. It has chosen to conserve its strength rather than waste it on futile attempts at freedom. As the days passed, word of humanity's vigil spread throughout the galaxy. Ships from other species began arriving at the edge of human space, not to invade or threaten, but to observe something they had never seen before. Dr. Rachel Stone intercepted communications between alien vessels. "They're calling us the Eternal Guard. They understand now that humans aren't primitive savages. We're the species that volunteered to protect everyone else." Amanda looked out at the crowd of humans still maintaining their watch over Stonehenge. Children played games while their parents stood guard. Elderly people shared stories of dreams they now understood were genetic memories. Everyone accepted their role as guardians without complaint. "What happens now?" Jake asked Director Mason. The warden leader smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "Now we do what humans have always done. We continue the watch. We maintain the vigil. And we make sure the galaxy stays safe." As weeks turned to months, humanity settled into its acknowledged role as the galaxy's guardians. The secret was no longer hidden. Every human now understood their true purpose, and they embraced it willingly. Archaeological teams began leaving new messages at ancient sites across human space. Simple statements that future civilizations would find if humanity ever fell. The guardians endured. The vigil continued. The universe remained safe. Amanda often returned to Stonehenge to check on the monitoring equipment. The Devourer remained dormant in Earth's core, held in check by the combined will of 7 billion humans who refused to let it free. Other species in the galaxy no longer saw humans as dangerous primitives. They recognized them as the people who had chosen an eternal burden so that others could live in peace. The warnings left by extinct civilizations took on new meaning. They weren't warnings about humanity. They were acknowledgments of humanity's sacrifice. The galaxy was safe, and it would remain safe as long as humans existed to stand guard over the darkness that slept beneath their world. It was a burden they carried willingly, and a duty they would never abandon. The vigil continued, and the universe endured.